"You're being ridiculous, Mom. You're 67 years old. What are you going to do with a beach house anyway? Sit there and wait to die?" My daughter's words echoed in my kitchen like a slap. I set down my coffee cup carefully, afraid my trembling hands would betray me. Across the table, Jessica sat with her arms crossed, her husband Marcus nodding beside her like one of those bobblehead dolls. "The property is worth at least $600,000, Marcus added, pulling out his phone to show me some website. "Maybe more with the current market." "That's real money, Helen. Money that could change our lives." I looked at my daughter. 41 years old, and somewhere along the way, she'd become someone I barely recognized. When had the little girl who used to collect seashells with me on that very beach turned into this woman demanding I sell my memories? "That house belonged to your father and me for 43 years, I said quietly. "We bought it the summer before you were born. Dad's been gone for 4 years, Mom." Jessica's voice softened slightly, but only slightly. "You barely go there anymore. It just sits empty most of the year while Marcus and I are struggling." Struggling. That word again. I'd heard it so many times over the past 3 years. Struggling when Marcus quit his accounting job to become a day trader. Struggling when that didn't work out and he decided to flip houses instead. Struggling when the house flipping venture collapsed because Marcus couldn't be bothered to actually learn about construction. "What exactly do you need the money for this time?" I asked. Marcus leaned forward eagerly. "There's this incredible investment opportunity, cryptocurrency mining. My buddy Kevin says he made $200,000 in 6 months. We just need startup capital for the equipment." I almost laughed. Almost. But the look on Jessica's face stopped me. She actually believed this. She actually thought her husband's latest scheme was going to work. "I've already given you money," I reminded them. $50,000 when you started the trading business, $30,000 for the house flipping, $20,000 when you couldn't make your mortgage payment last year. "That's different," Jessica said. "This time it's going to work. And we're not asking for a loan, Mom. We're asking you to be reasonable. You don't need that house. We need the money. Your father proposed to me in that house. Sentimental value doesn't pay bills." I stared at my daughter, searching for some trace of the girl who used to help me tend the little garden on the property. The girl who learned to swim in the cove just steps from the back door. The girl who, at 16, told me that beach house was her favorite place in the entire world. "I think you should leave," I said. Jessica's expression hardened. "Fine. But this conversation isn't over. Marcus and I have been talking to a lawyer." "A lawyer?" Marcus nodded, puffing up slightly. "About having you declared mentally incompetent. You're clearly not making rational decisions with your assets. Any judge would see that holding onto a property you barely use while your only daughter suffers is a sign of cognitive decline." The room went very still. I could hear the tick of the grandfather clock in the hallway, the same clock that had been in my family for 3 generations. "Get out of my house," I said. My voice didn't shake. I was proud of that. "Mom, don't be dramatic." Now, they left. Marcus made a big show of sighing heavily, like I was being unreasonable. Jessica paused at the door and turned back. "Think about what we said. We're trying to help you, Mom. You're just too stubborn to see it." The door closed behind them. I sat at my kitchen table for a long time after that, watching the afternoon light shift across the floor. 4 years since Richard passed. 4 years of trying to hold on to the pieces of our life together while the world kept trying to take them away. The beach house wasn't just a property. It was where Richard and I had spent every summer for over 4 decades. Where we'd watched Jessica take her first steps on the weathered deck. Where we'd celebrated anniversaries, birthdays, ordinary Tuesdays that somehow became precious in memory. Richard had loved that house. In his final months, when the cancer made it hard for him to do much of anything, he'd still asked me to wheel him out onto the deck so he could watch the sunset over the water. The last thing he ever said to me was, "Promise me you'll keep the house, Helen. Don't let anyone take it from you." I'd promised. But now my own daughter was threatening to have me declared incompetent. My own daughter and her useless husband wanted to sell my memories to fund another doomed venture. I picked up the phone and called my best friend, Dorothy. We'd known each other since college, over 45 years now. She listened without interrupting as I told her everything. "What are you going to do?" she asked finally. "I don't know. I can't let them take the house." "But I'm 67 years old, Dorothy. What if they actually convince a judge I'm not competent? Helen, You're the sharpest person I know. You taught high school English for 35 years. You still do the New York Times crossword in pen. That doesn't mean anything legally. Dorothy was quiet for a moment. You know, my nephew is an elder law attorney in Boston. Do you want me to ask him about your options? That phone call changed everything. Dorothy's nephew, Daniel, turned out to be exactly the kind of person I needed. He was young, sharp, and genuinely outraged on my behalf when I explained the situation. Let me be clear, he said during our first meeting. Your daughter has no grounds to have you declared incompetent. You're clearly lucid and capable of making your own decisions. But that doesn't mean she can't make your life difficult by filing frivolous petitions. What do you suggest? That depends on what you want. Do you want to keep the beach house? I thought about it, really thought about it. The house was beautiful, but Daniel was right that I didn't use it as often as I used to. The drive down had become harder in recent years. The memories there were precious, but they were also painful. Every room held echoes of Richard. I want the house to go to someone who will love it, I said slowly. Someone who will appreciate what it means, not someone who will sell it the moment I'm gone to fund cryptocurrency mining. Daniel nodded. You have every right to sell the property and do whatever you want with the proceeds. Have you thought about who might be interested in buying it? An idea was forming in my mind. A crazy, wonderful, possibly terrible idea. Actually, I said, I think I know exactly who to call. Cynthia was Richard's daughter from his first marriage. She was 53 now, a nurse in Vermont, and one of the kindest people I'd ever known. When Richard and I got married 39 years ago, Cynthia was 14. She could have resented me. Instead, she'd welcomed me into her life with open arms. The relationship between Cynthia and Jessica had always been complicated. Jessica had grown up jealous of her older half-sister. She'd been convinced that Richard loved Cynthia more, that the inheritance would somehow be unfair. When Richard passed and left Cynthia a generous portion of his retirement accounts, Jessica had barely spoken to her for 2 years. Now I was about to make things a lot more complicated. Helen! Cynthia's voice was warm when she answered the phone. It's so good to hear from you. I was just thinking about you the other day. How are you doing? I'm managing, I said. Cynthia, I need to ask you something. It's about the beach house, the one in Maine. I loved visiting there when I was a kid. Dad taught me to fish off that dock. I remember. You were better at it than he was. She laughed. Don't tell him that, or I guess, well, her voice caught slightly. We were both still learning how to talk about Richard in the past tense. Cynthia, how would you feel about owning that beach house? There was a long silence. Helen, I don't understand. Are you saying you want to sell it? To me? I'm saying I want it to belong to someone who loves it. Someone who will actually use it. Someone who understands what it meant to your father. But what about Jessica? I took a deep breath. Jessica wants me to sell the house, so she and Marcus can invest the money in cryptocurrency. She threatened to have me declared mentally incompetent if I don't agree. She what? I know. It's been difficult. Helen, that's horrible. I'm so sorry. So am I. But I've made my decision. I want you to have the house. We can arrange a private sale, fair market value. Daniel, my attorney, says everything can be done quickly and legally. Cynthia was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was thick with emotion. Are you sure about this? I don't want to cause problems between you and Jessica. The problems already exist. At least this way, the house stays in the family. Someone who actually loved Richard will have it. I don't know what to say. Thank you, Helen. Thank you. Over the next few weeks, Daniel and I worked quickly. The appraisal came back at $620,000. Cynthia arranged financing through her bank. We scheduled the closing for a Thursday morning in late October. I didn't tell Jessica anything. It's hard to explain how peaceful those weeks were. For the first time since Richard's death, I felt like I was doing something right, something he would have approved of. The house would stay in loving hands. It wouldn't be sold off to fund some ridiculous scheme. I went down to Maine one last time before the closing, walked through every room, sat on the deck, and watched the sun set over the water, just like Richard and I used to do. I cried, but they were good tears, healing tears. The signing happened in Daniel's office. Cynthia came down from Vermont, and we hugged for a long time before getting down to business. She asked me 3 more times if I was certain. I've never been more certain of anything, I told her. The papers were signed, the funds transferred. The beach house now belonged to Cynthia. I felt lighter than I had in years. Of course, it didn't take long for Jessica to find out. It was 2 weeks after the closing when she showed up at my door. No call, no warning, just frantic, knocking at 8 in the morning. "Please tell me it's not true," she said when I opened the door. Her face was red, her eyes wild. "Please tell me you didn't do what I think you did." "Good morning to you too, Jessica." Marcus heard from his lawyer that the beach house was sold, that the deed was transferred. We thought maybe someone was confused, that it was some kind of mistake, but I called the county recorder's office and they confirmed it. "You sold the house, Mom. You actually sold it." "Yes, I did." "Without telling me? Without giving us a chance to buy it ourselves?" "You didn't want to buy it. You wanted me to sell it and give you the money." Jessica's hands were shaking. Who? Who did you sell it to? Maybe we can make them an offer. Maybe they'll flip it. We can still fix this." I should have felt guilty for the small satisfaction that crept into my voice. I didn't. I sold it to Cynthia. The color drained from my daughter's face. Cynthia. Dad's daughter Cynthia. She's my stepdaughter. And yes, you gave our family home to her? I sold it to her. Fair market value. Every penny documented. Jessica grabbed the doorframe like she might fall over. "How could you do this to me?" "To us? That was my inheritance. It wasn't your anything. It was my house. Mine and your father's. I had every right to do with it whatever I wanted. But Cynthia. Of all people, you gave it to Cynthia? Because she actually wanted the house, not the money. The house, she wants to spend summers there with her children and grandchildren. She wants to renovate the old boathouse your father always meant to fix up." She cried. Jessica. She actually cried because she loves that place so much. My daughter's expression twisted into something ugly. "This isn't over. I'll contest the sale. I'll prove you weren't competent to make this decision. You're welcome to try. My attorney is very thorough. Every step of this process was documented. I had an independent cognitive evaluation done last month. The doctor's report states I'm perfectly sound of mind. You planned this." "Yes, I did. Because you gave me no choice." Jessica left without another word. But I knew that wasn't the end. The harassment started small. Phone calls at odd hours, hang-ups, then messages started appearing on social media. Anonymous accounts claiming I was a bitter old woman who had stolen from my own daughter, that I was mentally unstable, that I had manipulated an elderly man into marrying me for his money. Marcus's work, I assumed. He had plenty of free time since he didn't have a job. Then it got worse. I came home one afternoon to find my mailbox destroyed. Just smashed, pieces scattered across the lawn. The police came and took a report, but there wasn't much they could do. A week later, someone slashed my tires. All 4 of them. Then the anonymous letters started, typed, "No return address." They called me horrible names. They accused me of being a thief, a con artist, a murderer. One letter suggested I had actually killed Richard, somehow hurried his death along to get his money. I saved every single one. Daniel advised me to document everything. "We're building a case," he told me. "When we have enough evidence, we can get a restraining order, maybe even press charges." But the worst was yet to come. Cynthia called me on a Tuesday night, her voice trembling. "Helen, I need to tell you something. Someone broke into the beach house." My heart stopped. "What?" The security system alerted my phone. By the time the police got there, whoever it was had run off. But they did some damage. Spray painted the walls, broke windows, threw paint all over the deck. "Oh, Cynthia, I'm so sorry." "The police found something, Helen. A can of gasoline in the kitchen. They think whoever did this was planning to burn the place down, but got scared off by the alarm." I sat down heavily on my couch. Gasoline. They were going to burn down the house. Richard's house, the house where he'd spent his last sunset. "The police checked the security footage from the neighbor's camera," Cynthia continued. "Helen, it was Marcus. They have him on video." The arrest happened the next morning. Marcus was charged with breaking and entering, vandalism, and attempted arson. The evidence was overwhelming. Jessica called me that night. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Happy now? Her voice was raw from crying. My husband is in jail. My life is ruined. Are you happy? Why would I be happy about any of this, Jessica? Because you won. You and your precious Cynthia. You destroyed my family. I destroyed nothing. Marcus made his own choices. He broke into a house with gasoline and matches. He could have killed someone. He could have burned down an entire neighborhood. He was upset. He wasn't thinking clearly. That's not an excuse. That's never an excuse. Jessica was sobbing now. I don't understand how we got here. How did everything go so wrong? I felt something shift in my chest. Beneath all the anger, beneath all the hurt, there was still love. There would always be love. She was my daughter. You could come over, I said quietly. We could talk, really talk, without Marcus, without lawyers, without anyone else. What's the point? You hate me. I don't hate you, Jessica. I've never hated you. I've been hurt by you, disappointed in you, afraid of what you've become. But hate? Never. She hung up. I didn't expect her to show up. But 2 days later, she was on my doorstep again. This time, she looked different. Smaller somehow. The fire had gone out of her eyes, replaced by something that looked almost like the daughter I remembered. Can I come in? I stepped aside. We sat in the living room, the same room where she'd threatened to have me declared incompetent just 2 months earlier. But everything felt different now. I'm leaving Marcus, she said. The lawyer says he's looking at real prison time. Attempted arson is serious. I know. I've been thinking a lot. About how we got here. About the things I said to you. She looked down at her hands. I don't know when I became this person, Mom. This angry, entitled person who could say those things to her own mother. I've wondered the same thing, I think. I think it started when Dad got sick. I was so scared of losing him. And then when he died, I felt like everything was slipping away. The beach house, the memories, you. I thought if I could just hold on to the money, onto something solid, I could stop feeling so lost. Oh, Jessica. And Marcus kept telling me we deserved more, that you were being selfish. That Dad would have wanted us to have the money. I believed him because I wanted to believe him. I reached across and took her hand. She flinched slightly but didn't pull away. Your father loved you very much, I said. But he also loved that house. He made me promise to protect it. I couldn't let it go to fund cryptocurrency mining. A wet laugh escaped her. God, that sounds so stupid now. Cryptocurrency mining. Marcus didn't even know how it worked. He just saw dollar signs. That seems to be a pattern with Marcus. Yeah, it is. She wiped her eyes. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry for everything. The threats, the harassment, the things I said. You didn't deserve any of it. No, I didn't. Do you think, is there any way we could start over? Not pretend none of this happened, but maybe try to find our way back? I thought about Richard. About his endless capacity for forgiveness. About how he always said that holding on to anger was like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. I'd like that, I said. But it's going to take time. And there need to be some ground rules. Anything. First, you need to get help. Therapy, counseling, something. You've been through a lot, and you've made some terrible choices because of it. You need to work through that. She nodded. Second, you need to make things right with Cynthia. She's your sister. She's been nothing but kind to you your entire life, and you've treated her like an enemy. I know. I've been awful to her. Third, you need to understand that the money from the house is gone. It belonged to me. I sold it for fair value. What I do with those funds is my decision. I understand. I'm setting up a trust, I told her. For my grandchildren and any great-grandchildren who come along. For education, for emergencies, for starting their lives. Not for speculation, not for schemes, for things that actually matter. Jessica's eyes filled with tears again. Mom, you don't have to. I want to. I want something good to come from all of this, something your father would be proud of. We talked for hours that day. About Richard, about the beach house, about the years of misunderstandings and resentments that had built up between us. It wasn't easy, There were tears and arguments, and moments when I thought we'd never bridge the gap. But by the time she left, something had healed. Not completely. Not yet. But it had started. Marcus pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 3 years. Jessica filed for divorce the same week. She moved into a small apartment in the city and started seeing a therapist twice a week. It took time, but slowly, my daughter started to come back to me. The real Jessica. The one who used to collect seashells and build sandcastles. The one who cried when Richard walked her down the aisle. The one who had gotten lost somewhere along the way, but was finally finding her path again. Cynthia was gracious about everything. She invited Jessica to the beach house that following summer, and I heard later that they'd spent a whole afternoon sitting on the deck, just talking. Working through decades of jealousy and misunderstanding. I went back to Maine that August. Cynthia had done beautiful things with the place. New paint, new furniture, but still the same essence. Still the house where Richard had proposed to me, where Jessica took her first steps, where Cynthia learned to fish. I sat on the deck as the sun went down, and I could almost feel Richard beside me. "I kept my promise," I whispered. "The house is safe, it's loved." The waves lapped against the shore, and I swear I heard him answer. "I know, Helen. I know." Someone asked me recently if I regretted selling the house. If I wished I'd just held on to it myself, ignored Jessica's threats, and kept things the way they were. The answer is no. That house needed to be loved, not just owned. It needed children running through it again, laughter echoing off the walls. It needed family gatherings and summer barbecues, and all the things that had made it magical in the first place. Cynthia gave it that. And in an unexpected way, the whole terrible experience gave Jessica a wake-up call she desperately needed. As for me, I have my peace. I have my memories. And I have a relationship with my daughter that, while still healing, is stronger than it's been in years. Richard used to say that families are like gardens. They need tending. Sometimes you have to pull out the weeds to let the flowers grow. I think I finally understand what he meant. The money from the house sale is safe in the trust, growing slowly, waiting to help future generations. The beach house is filled with love again. And every time I visit, I bring a handful of shells I've collected and add them to the jar on the mantelpiece. It's something Jessica and I used to do together when she was little. Last month, she came with me to Maine. We walked along the shore at sunset, just like we used to. She found a perfect spiral shell and held it up to the light. "Remember when I used to think these were mermaid houses?" she asked. "I remember. I'm sorry I forgot who I was, Mom. I'm sorry it took something so terrible to remind me." I put my arm around her shoulder. "The important thing is you remembered. That's all that matters now." We stood there together, watching the sun paint the water gold. My daughter came home. That's worth more than any house could ever be.